I want to talk about some football news, football. And it's funny because I brand this as a nerdcast, and there is nothing in my view that is nerdier than football. Like NFL nerds, and you have your jocks and all that shit. We don't need to get into that, but the people that get into fantasy football, that's basically Pokemon for jocks. It's Magic the Gathering for sports bros. Last night there was some pretty shocking news that shocking in a certain degree, right? If you are in any capacity familiar with football and familiar with Jon Gruden as a character, then it probably doesn't shock you all that much, but it is still a little surprising. It came out of left field that Jon Gruden, the coach of the Oakland Raiders, has like a thief in the night, he just swooped out of the window and into the bushes, never to be heard from again. And it's pretty remarkable everything that's happened as a result. And leading up to it, really, he resigned as the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, or Oakland, Las Vegas Raiders. Sorry. Yeah. So I guess as part of an ongoing investigation into the all the media outlets, when they report on this, they say it's an investigation of the Washington football team, which I guess is technically true, but it's an investigation into the ongoings of that organization at a time when they were the Washington Redskins. They still had that racist name when all of this stuff was going down. And I mention that because the beating heart of this story, with respects to Jon Gruden, is it's not even allegations, it's just flat out there, on the surface, extreme racism and misogyny and homophobia and all this other terrible things that I guess he's been saying in company emails to Bruce Allen, who's I think he was I don't know if he was an executive there at the time or if he was a coach. I think I may be thinking of Dennis Allen, to be honest, but in addition to some other people. So yeah, this story broke, and a lot of people were, and like I said, it's not that shocking that a guy who's his image brand is tailored after Chucky, the horror movie creature. Breaking news, that guy's been acting badly. It's not as shocking as one might think it is, but it is still kind of surprising for a variety of reasons. So let's just go ahead and catch ourselves up on what this exactly is all about.
News on Monday, which broke during Monday Night Football. Jon Gruden resigned after the New York Times reported he frequently used misogynistic and anti-gay language in numerous emails before he was hired as coach of the Raiders in 2018. According to the Times, Gruden sent the emails to Bruce Allen, then the president of the Washington football team, and others during a 7-year period that began in 2011. The NFL sent the Raiders additional Gruden emails to review after the first, which Gruden had been asked about, which included the racial trope about NFLPA Executive Director DeMaurice Smith that surfaced last week.
Okay, I just need to say, when I first heard of this story, when it first popped up, I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't really paying too much attention to it. But the only thing that I heard about it was that, he said what he said about DeMaurice Smith. DeMaurice Smith is the president of the NFL Players Union. Obviously, maybe I shouldn't say obviously, but he's a black dude. And the comment that Gruden had said was that he had lips that were as big as Michelin tires, which, goes without saying that that's a pretty atrocious racial, slur to sling around. But that was all that I was aware of. And I can't remember if this was a comment that he had said around 2011 or so. I think my initial response is, God damn, dude, what the fuck? And I assumed that, I didn't know, I didn't think that it was worthy of costing him his job. I was more on the side of all right, dude, find the living shit out of him, make his wallet hurt like hell, suspend him for a game or two, and then just move on past it. I thought that was maybe the extent of it. It was probably a heated situation between Gruden and DeMaurice Smith, and move on. But that's not what it was. That's not just what it was. That was just a little bit. That was just a little sampling of the magnificent splendor that is Jon Gruden's apparently deeply hate-filled, bigotry and resentment towards anyone and everyone around him that, isn't him.
Gruden was employed by ESPN as the lead analyst for Monday Night Football at the time that he sent these emails, which are now under review. The comments are clearly repugnant under any circumstance, ESPN said in a statement. Gruden released the following statement, I quote, "I resigned as the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt anyone." Joined now by Adam Schefter. And Adam, at halftime of the Monday night game, you said,
"This is the only time I will ever say something like this." But I did watch a clip of Stephen A. Smith earlier talking about it, and as much as I hate that dude, he had a pretty appropriate take when he was like, "You never meant to hurt anyone. You didn't mean to hurt," like something. They'll talk about some of the things he said about, Michael Sam, the first openly gay player drafted. He said something pretty atrocious about the NFL should have never forced drafting, and using his words, quote unquote, queers and that sort of stuff. He's like, "You never meant to hurt Michael Sam. You never meant to hurt the female officiators he said shouldn't be officiating. You never meant to hurt, any of the other people that he's been using slurs against and all this sort of stuff, and trying to, not just using slurs, but in the case of, the officiating, the officiators and Michael Sam, like, pretty much, as a person of influence, trying to, persuade people to not give them jobs or opportunity. I mean, that's explicitly discriminatory. And at the time, I think he was making these comments not as a coach, but as like a ESPN commentator. So he wasn't directly in a position of power within the NFL organization at that time, but he is now. he is now, and all of that stuff that comes under scrutiny, I think that's beyond fair game for criticism, and I don't necessarily disagree with the extreme tack that the NFL has taken on this, in part, honestly, because I think that the NFL is kind of hoping that Gruden takes all the flack from this and diverts away from what the core of that investigation is really all about, which is potentially very dark and extremely troubling. So, Gruden's being hung out to dry here, but I don't think anyone's shedding any tears about that fact, considering what he's been saying.
and I agreed that as these additional emails came out from the New York Times, that it felt that this was not something that Jon Gruden would survive, that this was an inevitability. Can you walk us through how this played out within the Raider organization on Monday?
Well, I think we have to go back to Friday, Scott, because that was when the initial email about the NFLPA Executive Director DeMaurice Smith came out.
Okay.
And I think at that point in time, the NFL sent a group of emails to the Raiders owner, Mark Davis, that obviously contained the contents that the New York Times publicized, 7 years worth of emails dating back from 2010 to 2018. When I got the call on Monday at about 5:45 Eastern, before we started Monday Night Countdown, I could tell that there had been a notice shift. It seemed like the NFL was getting very impatient with Mark Davis for not taking action. The fact that he was allowed to coach on Sunday, that no action was taken, that Mark Davis stood idly by. We said on Monday Night Countdown, it was in Mark Davis's court. And Mark Davis showed up to the facility, and he met with Jon Gruden, and Jon Gruden announced his resignation. And maybe it was that way, Scott. But if Jon Gruden resigned, you're telling me that he was willing to walk away from $60 million, the 6 years and $60+ million left in his contract? I think ultimately there was no other choice and no other way out but for the two sides to end this relationship, however they want to categorize it. Resignation, fired, parted ways, out. Jon Gruden's out as the head coach, and he essentially was let go during Monday Night Football, ironically enough. And probably that is the end to what at one point was a storied NFL career as a Super Bowl winning coach, a famed Monday Night Football broadcaster, the man that led the Raiders into Las Vegas, a great football career ending in this way. And I think it had to be very hard for Mark Davis because he still loves Jon Gruden like his son, and this was not something he wanted to do, but clearly there were people affiliated with the National Football
Aren't they
League
the same
and
age?
National Football League offices who wanted action taken, and they felt it should have been taken long before Monday night.
Week 1 Monday Night Football.
Mark
the Raiders
Davis
beat
is
the Ravens in overtime.
66,
Week
58,
5,
close
the
enough.
Ravens are in overtime.
More like a brother,
game,
probably.
And Gruden is out as the Raiders coach. It was a remarkable and amazing turn of events, and clearly from the NFL's point of view, it didn't happen as quickly as they might have wanted, but it has.
So obviously, none of the broadcasters really want to talk about what was said in those emails, but this New York Times article kind of details some of it. So just to give a little sampling of some of the things that cost him his job, we'll go over here a bit, some of the emails and some of the things that he was saying. Let's see. Gruden's departure came after a New York Times report that NFL officials, as part of a separate workplace misconduct investigation, and that's the key part of this. Again, this is an investigation into workplace misconduct for the Washington football team / Washington Redskins. There's some pretty seedy allegations that there was some coercion from executives to have the cheerleaders pose topless and then take pictures of them, and then that's a part of this email thing. Is those pictures were emailed to Gruden, and he had some comments on that as well. But apparently there are allegations of maybe forced prostitution and stuff like that with the cheerleaders there. And if an investigation of that is what unearthed this, then you are severely burying the lead here. But as this is the story of the day, we will continue with this for now. Gruden's departure came after a New York Times report that NFL officials, as part of a separate workplace misconduct investigation that did not directly involve him, found that Gruden had casually and frequently unleashed misogynistic and homophobic language over several years to denigrate people around the game and to mock some of the league's momentous changes. He denounced the emergence of women as referees, the drafting of a gay player, and the tolerance of players protesting during the playing of the national anthem, according to emails reviewed by the Times. Gruden's messages were sent to Bruce Allen, the former president of the Washington football team, and others, while he was working for ESPN as a color analyst during Monday Night Football. In the emails, Gruden called the league's commissioner, Roger Goodell, a, quote, and a, quote, clueless anti-football pussy. Anti-football. That's a weird profession for the commissioner of the NFL to get into if he's anti-football, but nevertheless. And said that Goodell should not have pressured Jeff Fisher, then the coach of the Rams, to draft, quote, queers in reference to Michael Sam, a gay player chosen by the team in 2014. Now, this is the most unconscionable part of all. The most unconscionable part of all of this is that Jon Gruden has forced me into a position where I have to like and respect and side with Jeff Fisher. And that's a position nobody should ever be in. I hate and resent that I have to be in this position, but this is what Jon Gruden's awful fucking takes have led me to. I now have a better appreciation for Jeff Fisher. In numerous emails during a 7-year period ending in early 2018, Gruden criticized Goodell and the league for trying to reduce concussions. Like, I understand. And Gruden's not alone in this, especially if you listen to someone like Bill Burr and his podcast. There's always there always has been it's a fairly sizable contingent of football fans that are always like, oh, you're softening the game, you're making it weak, and it's not so much that they want concussions, oh, concussions are a part of the game, we need concussions, give me my concussions. It's not explicitly about that, at least. I think to some degree it might be, but it's really about wanting to keep the game at the same level of violence and the same level of intensity as it was in the 80s and shit, the 70s and 80s, which honestly, it's arguably more violent and more intense now than it was back then, even with these safety regulations in place, because the players are just so much more in shape. They are bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, they're flying all over the field at speeds that people in the 70s would never dream of. You got dudes running 4.3s and high 4.2s, popping people. And there's to a certain degree, there's no rule that's gonna keep you from not getting hurt from that shit, and people are dropping like flies left and right all season from that. So the game isn't soft at all. Like the players are getting more monstrous, if anything, and a reaction. And it's also it's always a good thing to tailor the game towards new revelations in science. And the NFL has fought against that for as long as they could. CTE, the studies around CTE have been around for a while, and it took a lot to get the NFL to at least recognize it and start making some changes towards it. You could bemoan that as like making the game soft or whatever these freaks think that's going on there, but a critical part of the evolution of society in general is taking in data from the way that some aspect of society functions, squaring it up against new revelations in science or technology or medicine or whatever other sort of thing that there is, and then coming up with a solution that reduces the harm. Whether seatbelts save lives, okay, we're going to introduce seatbelts, and there are people that were against seatbelts too, or any other kind of thing, like we need a kill switch for elevators for whatever reason, and okay, we'll do that, and then people dying in elevators. I don't know. That's just something I'm pulling out of my ass. I don't know what the stat on people dying in elevators are. But you always use that kind of data and information to make informed decisions on how to keep something safe and how to keep people from from being harmed. And obviously, like a counter to that would be people going, well, if you want to be safe, then don't play football. This is a man's sport. You play this game to hurt and to get hurt. And it's like, yeah, okay, but that's really not the purpose of the sport. If you want to do that, you can go into boxing. Like, boxing is the sport to hurt and get hurt. Like, the purpose of boxing is to concuss a motherfucker. Literally. You KO him. You knocked him out. You gave him a concussion. And by the way, I did watch that Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight, and that was a great fight to watch. That was like watching old school, like, heavyweight boxing. And man, I did feel really bad for Deontay Wilder, because it was pretty evident that the dude had his clock cleaned fairly early on, and he was kind of in autopilot mode. He was still able to, like, duck and weave and counter and stuff like that. He got his licks in too, and he put Fury on the ground a couple times, but it almost, like, just looking at him, just looking at his body movement, looking at his eyes, it seemed like he was just on, like, autopilot survival mode more than anything else. He didn't seem like he was a boxer making efficient and cunning decisions. And that made me feel really, really bad. Like, it's a blood sport. Boxing is a blood sport. It's a fun sport to watch for certain. I do like it. I feel bad about that because it is a blood sport. And the whole purpose of the sport is to concuss a motherfucker. And that dude got dropped hard. Like, when he went down to the mat that last time, like, he was out. He was out while he was falling. And his arms were, like, off to the side. He just landed right on his side of his face. And, it was a fantastic fight. I did like it. But at the same time, it was like, God damn, this is brutal, man. This is a gladiator blood sport, if ever there was one. And trying to square my liking of boxing against my recognition that making the NFL safer against concussions and whatnot is a good thing. It's a hard thing to square. There's some. I will admit openly, there's a little bit of hypocrisy in that. But yeah, I would argue with people that are like, you're making football soft. Like, the purpose of football is not to concuss a person. Like, that's not the goal. It's a byproduct. It's a byproduct of how you tackle someone, or if you accidentally lower your head at the wrong moment, or you get pushed to the ground and your head does that snap. Your neck snaps your head into the turf. It's all a byproduct. It's never like the core function, and it's a good thing whenever there are mechanisms put in place to reduce that. So arguing, I don't know. I wouldn't go so far as to say that Gruden was arguing against the reduction of concussions so much as he just probably had that, that gorilla-brained mentality of, you're making it soft, it shouldn't be soft, and that's just dumb shit. But he did say, in addition to that, he said that Eric Reid, a player who had demonstrated during the playing of the national anthem, should be fired. In several instances, yeah, he should be fired. I mean, we don't need to go over the whole kneeling for the anthem thing. That's been done to death, and this just exposes where Gruden was on that issue. In several instances, Gruden used a homophobic slur to refer to Goodell and offensive language to describe some of the NFL owners, coaches, and journalists who cover the league. Now what offensive languages did he use to describe the owners? That's why he got fired, probably, more than anything else. The shit against Goodell and like using offensive language to describe NFL owners. Yeah, you're in the old boys club, dude. You can't ruffle those feathers. Say what you will about Michael Sam and Eric Reid, but once you start going after the owners, you're crossing the line. Gruden out in the NFL and the Raiders did not respond to requests for comment, although not with the team at the time. Gruden was still influential in the league. Highly coveted as a coach, he had won a Super Bowl. This is the weird part. So he was hired for a second stint as a head coach for the Raiders franchise, which is where he was just resigned from, which includes defensive lineman Carl Nassib, the first active NFL player to publicly declare that he is gay. When did Carl Nassib go on to... I know of Carl Nassib because he was the brother of Ryan Nassib, who was the quarterback for Syracuse, and I think for the Giants for a while. And most people got familiar with Carl Nassib from Hard Knocks and his hilarious back and forth with Todd Haley. And of course, Todd Haley's hilarious. Whoever looks at a baby and decides to name them Carl, which is, true point. Todd Haley, also another infamous shitbag, but if nothing else, at least he's a funny one. 2020, so he was brought onto the Raiders during Gruden's tenure then. Yeah, he was brought onto the Raiders while Gruden was there. So that's the thing that kind of, if Gruden had such feelings about gay players, and of course, Michael Sam was the first openly gay player to be drafted, but he never played a regular season game. I think he played in the preseason a little bit. But Carl Nassib, he wasn't out when he was drafted, and I think he was. I was just on his page. Was he drafted from Cleveland? I remember seeing him on Hard Knocks at Cleveland, but. Yeah, he was drafted in Cleveland, and then went to the Bucks for a little while, then went to the Raiders. So, yeah, Carl Nassib. So, I really would like to hear from players in Oakland. They could be anonymous. I don't need names attached, but I would like to hear what the players in the locker room think. Maybe I could just Google that. I guess no one cares what the players think. That's what I'm interested in. I want to hear what the players have to say. They should say something anonymously. Just leak it out through some sources. Anonymous sources say. Because, people... I know that the latest emails that these were sent out from were 2018, but, people sometimes change, man. People can have a change of heart. People can, this was, okay, and in 2018 when he was hired for his second stint of the Rangers. Okay, he was hired in 2018, but, I don't know what emails and all of this shit is kind of mysterious. I was trying to find the actual emails themselves, if somebody printed, took screenshots of them or anything, and I couldn't find any. I couldn't find out where any of these screenshots were. So I don't know what the timeline for what these statements are. It's kind of weird how mysterious it is, but yeah, it could be a situation where he had those feelings about Michael Sam, and then at some other point in the future, he kind of changed his mind. Maybe because, like I said, Michael Sam never played a regular season in the NFL, but Carl Nassib did when he was not out, when he was still, I guess, closeted, for lack of a better word. He did play in the regular season. He was pretty good. He wasn't bad. I don't know. I can't remember why he was cut from the Browns. He was pretty good on that Hard Knocks season, at least. maybe Gruden saw that and was like, "Hey, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong about them queers." And maybe he decided to change some of his perspective on that sort of thing. And sometimes it takes that. It takes a demonstrable action in order to change someone's stubborn viewpoint on something. So it's possible that he was maybe at the beginning of a face turn rather. But I don't know. I would like to see the emails, and I would like to hear comments from some of these players on the Raiders squad right now. The league said last week that it shared emails with the Raiders in which Gruden made derogatory comments. Gruden told ESPN on Sunday that the league was reviewing emails in which he criticized Goodell and explained that he had been upset about the team owners' lockout of the players in 2011 when some of the emails were written. Gruden said in that interview that he had used an expletive to refer to Goodell and that he did so because he disapproved of Goodell's emphasis on safety, which he believed was scaring parents into steering their sons away from football. Oh boy. But Gruden's behavior was not limited to 2011. Gruden exchanged emails with Allen and other men that included photos of women wearing only bikini bottoms, including one photo of two Washington team cheerleaders. This is the sauce right here, because I believe that this is a reference to the workplace misconduct issue that prompted this deep investigation to begin with. And if what I had heard earlier is true, then the allegations may involve like prostitution rings, human trafficking, maybe even at the very least like coercion, like some really dark shit. And the fact that they're just kind of lightly dusting past it is pretty ludicrous. Gruden also criticized President Obama during his re-election campaign in 2012, as well as then Vice President Joseph R. Biden, whom Gruden called a nervous, clueless pussy. He used similar words to describe Goodell and DeMaurice Smith, the executive director of the NFLPA, Players Association. The league is already investigating Gruden as a result of another email he wrote to Allen in 2011, which he used racist terms to describe Smith, who was black. In that email, Gruden, and this is what I had heard, this is the first thing that I heard when this all dropped. Gruden, who is white, obviously, and was working for ESPN at the time, criticized Smith's intelligence and used a racist trope to describe his face. The correspondent was first reported by the Wall Street Journal and confirmed by the New York Times. Do they not? Why are these so trying to be so fucking coy and mysterious about that? What he actually said? Like, what the fuck? Why? Just fucking say it, dude. You already dropped the fucking F-bomb in that article. Why be coy there? Some of the highlights from his correspondence include a 2011 email to a Washington, at the time Redskins, but now football team, President Bruce Allen. In that, John called NFLPA Executive Director DeMaurice Smith, quote, duh. This is where that brilliant mind comes into play. DeMaurice Smith. Not DeMaurice Smith, but DeMaurice Smith. And further mentioned that, quote, he had lips the size of Michelin tires. Ooh, that's the rough one right there. That's like minstrel era. That's minstrel show era racism right there. Plucked straight from the fucking vaudeville shows. Per the New York Times, John also said things such as calling NFL... Yeah, we all talked about that. He also allegedly... Okay, the cheerleader picture. John also targeted LGBTQ plus community in other ways, including emails about Michael Sam, an openly gay NFL player. He slammed Roger Goodell for pressuring St. Louis coach for drafting queer. Yeah, we talked about that. So yeah, I guess those were the beefy parts of his misconduct there. I really want to know. Gruden's emails to Allen, who was fired by Washington at the end of 2019, were reviewed as a part of the NFL investigation of workplace misconduct in the franchise that ended this summer. Goodell instructed league executives to look at more than 650,000 emails during the past few months, including those in which Gruden made offensive remarks. Last week, Goodell received a summary of the findings, and the league sent the Raiders some of the emails written by Gruden. The exchanges Gruden used his personal email account, while Allen wrote from his team account. God, Bruce Allen is such an idiot, man. I mean, Gruden is too, and like he should have. I mean, if he was gonna do all this shit, he should have wrote him on his personal email and not on the NFL company server. In some cases, Allen initiated conversations and Gruden chimed in. Okay, so Allen is a fucking dolt too. While in other cases, they trade vulgar comments several times. Some of the emails between Gruden and Allen also included businessman friends, Ed Drost, co-founder of Hooters, Jim McVeigh, an executive who has run the Outback Bowl, annually held in Tampa, Florida, and Nick Reeder, the co-founder of PDQ Restaurants, a Tampa-based fried chicken franchise. The exchanges began as early as 2010, while Gruden was an analyst for Monday Night Football in 2018. He signed a 10-year, $100 million contract. That's the real bummer for like the players on the Raiders squad is that, you know, this year was actually coming up for them. Like, they started this year off looking good, and they actually ended last year not looking so bad either. And, you know, who knows where they go from here. One of their coaches is going to take over for the season at least. But, you know, maybe the locker room is invigorated by the absence of Chucky. Who knows? We'll have to see how they respond to this. But, I mean, considering how their season started, any kind of colossal change like this could have a massive detrimental effect. And, you know, the players, they put in so much work in the offseason. They're doing all this stuff to keep safe, getting vaccinated and all that sort of stuff. And then they get dropped a bombshell like this. Hey, the guy that's like the captain of the ship just got thrown overboard for being a racist, misogynistic, homophobic prick. You know, good luck on your season. Kind of a bummer, I'd imagine, for a lot of them. But again, maybe he was an asshole. Maybe they're glad he's gone. We know maybe about it. He was definitely an asshole, but we don't know how he is with his players. I mean, maybe they like him. Maybe he was having a face turn too. I mean, like I said, people change. Gruden and Allen are longtime friends. Blah 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 blah. This is, oh god, damn you and your paywalls. NFL fines Washington football team $10 million. Dan Snyder to run operations for now. The NFL has fined the Washington football team $10 million for fostering a workplace culture where sexual harassment, bullying, and intimidation were commonplace throughout most of Daniel Snyder's ownership. That guy is such a piece of shit. Why don't they just oust him already? They ousted the old owner for the Carolina Panthers, so it can be done. Just get rid of the dude. The league announced Thursday, but it declined, and this is an article from July 2nd, 2021, but it declined to release a detailed investigative report or address any allegations levied by former employees against Snyder. The culture of the club was very toxic and fell far short of the NFL's values, Lisa Friel, the league's special counsel for investigations, said during a conference call with reporters. The NFL did not suspend Snyder, but said that his wife, Tanya, named the team's co-CEO this week, will assume responsibilities for all day-to-day team operations and represent the team at all league meetings and other league activities for at least the next several months. There was little to no sentiment among other owners throughout the process to force Snyder to sell the franchise. People familiar with the situation said. That's what I'm saying. Like, just force him out, dude. You did that with the Panthers owner. The fine was an outcome of a lengthy, and this guy, and just Snyder, dude, is a piece of shit. The fine was an outcome of a lengthy league investigation overseen by prominent D.C. attorney Beth Wilkinson. The NFL will not release any detailed findings from Wilkinson's investigation beyond a news release, Friel said. In a contrast to previous league investigations, such as the probe into a video showing former Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice assaulting his fiancée, the NFL did not request any written report from Wilkinson, but instead heard her findings orally, Friel said, due to the sensitivity of the allegations. See, that's the thing, like, you know, if you're just a player, and a black one at that, they'll fucking paste your ass all day long for shit you do. But because this involves an owner and many executives and who knows who else in high up places, oh, due to the sensitivity of the allegations, we're not going to have this in writing. We're just going to hear it from her orally. We don't need any fucking paper trail coming back to any of us. So yeah, that's what that's all about. This is a definite CYA tactic there. And those fucks need to burn for it too. The team will pay $10 million to support organizations committed to anti-bullying, diversity stuff. Over the past 18 months, Dan and Tanya have recognized the need for change and have undertaken important steps to make the workplace comfortable and dignified for all employees. Okay, whatever. Snyder apologized to former employees. Okay, I want to see what the actual bullying and stuff going on was. Okay, they have to pay $10 million. Snyder and the team must also pay for Wilkins' investigation and related legal fees. $10 million is a real slap on the. It's not even a slap on the wrist. It's like a slap on the pinky nail. Snyder can attend games, according to multiple people familiar with the matter, in addition to working on new stadium issues. But Goodell must approve Snyder's eventual return to the team's daily operations, those people said, although it's unclear how the NFL intends to verify that he is not involved in those day-to-day operations. In the meantime, the $10 million fine is among the harshest penalties the league has assessed a team, but the failure to punish Snyder directly or release any detailed findings drew harsh criticism from Lisa Banks and Deborah Katz, attorneys representing more than 40 former team employees. In response to a year-long investigation in which more than 100 witnesses were interviewed, and which we believe substantiated our client's allegations of pervasive harassment, misogyny, and abuse at the Washington football team, the NFL has chosen to protect owner Dan Snyder, Banks and Katz said in a statement. This is truly outrageous and a slap in the face to hundreds of women and former employees who came forward in good faith and at great personal risk to report a culture of abuse at all levels of the team, including by Snyder himself. Allegations about Dan Snyder himself, not just people under him. Wilkinson, a former federal prosecutor and partner in the DC-based firm Wilkinson Steckloff, began her work last July after a Washington Post report detailed allegations of pervasive sexual harassment levied by 15 former employees and 2 journalists covering the team. Those allegations were ignored and in some cases condoned by top club executives, the Post reported. In the days leading up to the publication of that story, the team abruptly parted ways with 3 employees accused of acting improperly with women, including Larry Michael, the club's longtime radio voice, oh no, and Alex Santos, the team's director of pro personnel. It's always a bummer when the radio guys get in on this shit. Wilkinson initially, because for those that don't follow football, if you listen to it on the radio, and sometimes I listen to the Bills broadcast stuff on the radio, John Murphy, the voice of the Bills there, you get ingratiated with those dudes, and their enthusiasm for the team and all that sort of stuff. And it's a bummer when they turn out to be creep asses. Wilkinson was initially hired by Snyder and the team. Former team cheerleader Tiffany Bacon-Scarby accused Snyder of humiliating her at a charity event in 2004 by suggesting she join a close friend of his in a hotel room so they, quote, could get to know each other better. Ooh, you never want to hear that. Hey, you guys should go meet up in that hotel room so you could get to know each other better. And a former video producer, Brad Baker, alleged that he witnessed the production of a secret lewd video from a cheerleader calendar shoot featuring moments of nudity. Former team executive Michael requested the video, Baker said, and said it was for Snyder. Snyder denied both allegations, and Michael denied any knowledge of the video. The Post obtained copies of 2 videos from 2008 and 2010 that matched the one Baker described. While Snyder and the team initially disputed the authenticity of the videos, the team ultimately reached a confidential settlement with cheerleaders who appeared in them. God almighty, dude, if you have money, you can just get away with fucking anything. You can get away with anything. They denied the authenticity of the videos, but ultimately reached a confidential settlement. Confidential settlement. Jesus Christ, dude. Now, obviously, for legal purposes, people should have the ability to settle out of court in order to, if they don't want to get bogged down in a legal battle, even if they think they're going to win, the cost and the time and energy involved with that, it's an option that people should have available to them. But we're talking about $1 billion football franchise, here, owned by one of the country's, billionaire. I don't know if Dan Snyder's a billionaire. I would imagine that if you're an owner of an NFL team, you would definitionally have to be a billionaire. $4 billion. All right, yeah, so billionaire. he has the effort, and he has the time, the money, the effort, and energy needed in order to actually thoroughly go through a legal proceeding to clear his name if he wasn't guilty of this shit. Settling out of court confidentially, no less, is to me as much an admission of guilt as there can be. But then this is why I always get kicked out of jury pools. I'm a judgmental fuck. In the course of her investigation, Wilkinson interviewed nearly 150 current and former employees of the club, the league said. She also turned up information relating to a $1.6 million settlement between the team and a female former employee who accused Snyder of an act of sexual misconduct on his plane in 2009, according to court records and people with knowledge of the matter. Last November, the team's former general counsel, Dave Donovan, sued Wilkinson in federal court in Virginia in an attempt to prevent her from sharing information relating to the settlement, according to scant details about that suit that have been made public. Donovan dropped the lawsuit weeks later, but a legal fight continues in federal court among Wilkinson, Donovan, and the team over documents that could become public. The NFL will not release any information that Wilkinson collected regarding the allegations that gave rise to the settlement, Friel said, out of concern of violating the confidentiality requests of those who agreed to be interviewed. Quote, some of the specifics of allegations would have given away even who people were, so I think the commissioner was extremely concerned about respecting all these people's requests for confidentiality. I'm sure that's what it was. Wilkinson did not respond to a request for comment Thursday. In the past, NFL has released detailed reports into allegations involving the league office, as it did with the 2015 investigation by former FBI Director Robert Mueller. Oh boy, into the Rice video. So Robert Mueller investigated that, huh? Investigations into allegations raised against owners create sensitive issues for Goodell, however, who effectively answers to them. When the NFL investigated allegations against former Carolina Panthers owner Jerry Richardson, who had reached monetary settlements with at least 4 female former employees because of inappropriate comments and conduct, according to reporting by Sports Illustrated, no detailed report was produced beyond a news release announcing a $2.75 million fine and a statement that a probe by former U.S. Attorney Mary Jo White, quote, did substantiate the claims that have been made and identified no information that would either discredit the claims or claims made, or that would undermine the veracity of the employees who have made those claims. So basically, yeah, that motherfucker did it. And that's why he was forced out. Jerry Richardson was the owner that was forced out. That's why Khan is there now. The week's announcements of Tanya Snyder's decision to co-owner and the league's fine cap a year. Oh, and the league's fine. The $10 million fine, and the league's fine, cap a year of upheaval for the team. Last July, the team finally relented to years of criticism and dropped its former nickname, a racist slur for Native Americans. They finally relented and dropped that racist slur. In August, the team hired Jason Wright as its first black team president in NFL history, and he installed a new management team that was markedly more diverse than Snyder's previous leadership groups. Jeez, man, the first one in team history in like 2020. God, man, it always sucks when you see shit like that. Like, they were championing, I forget if it was a college game or a pro game, but it was like an all-black referee crew. And people were like, isn't this historic and whatnot? And I'm like, God, is there still that much ground to cover that in 2020 or 2021, whenever that was, that like, there's still, first all black blank that could be achieved and celebrated? Like, I thought we were living in the future here. Why is there still that ground to cover? In March, the NFL's Finance Committee, a group of owners, permitted Snyder to surpass the league's debt limit and borrow $450 million so he can buy out his former partners. Oh, God. Yeah, so it's this investigation that these emails spawned from, the Gruden emails spawned from. I don't know, man. I don't know why this came out now. Like, if they want to protect Snyder, then maybe they felt like this was going to come out at some point in the future anyways, and the best way to get ahead of it would be to throw Jon Gruden under the bus. I don't know. Maybe Jon Gruden had some things to say because Jon Gruden's brother, Jay Gruden, was the head coach for Washington at that time, or at least that part of that time. Maybe he had some things to say about Snyder as an owner. I don't know. But whatever the case may be, Gruden, for all his shittiness, is definitely being trampled under a bus that was meant for Dan Snyder and some of the people on the top of his organization. It would be nice to know the details of that investigation. That should definitely leak somewhere. And I don't want that video of the women to come out. But, I mean, that's the kind of thing where it's like, what tanked Ray Rice and that whole situation was that video. Video evidence is incredibly damning, and I'll just leave it at that. They are beginning to fucking scrub the decks from Ian Rappaport. The Bucks are removing Jon Gruden from their Ring of Honor. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jon Gruden famously won a Super Bowl as the head coach there. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have advocated for purposeful change in the areas of race relations, gender equality, diversity, and inclusion for many years. While we acknowledge Jon Gruden's contributions on the field, his actions go against our core values as an organization. Therefore, he will no longer continue to be a member of the Buccaneers' Ring of Honor. He may have a future, as a sports commentator for, the Daily Wire. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Shapiro isn't burning up the phones trying to get Jon Gruden to be a sports commentator on the Daily Wire right now. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you liked what I said, what Justin said, if you like the content we're providing, if you had any kind of laughs at all, even if you hate us, if you hate my guts, if you want to stab me, if you want to say all sorts of horrible things to me, cool. Like the video, subscribe. You'll get fed all sorts of shit you'll probably hate. And if you like us, you'll get fed all sorts of shit you probably like. So please and thank you.